أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعاديات ضبحا فالموريات قدحا فالمغيرات صبحا فأثرن به جمعا فأثرن به نقعا فوسطن به جمعا إن الإنسان لربه لكنود وإنه لحب الخير لشديد وإن أفلا يعلم إذا بعثر ما في القبور وحصل ما في الصدور إن ربهم بهم يومئذ لخبير صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات.
نیچے نہیں بیٹھ جاؤ نیچے. ہاں السلام اللهم صل على محمد. نعرہ حیدری. اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش بری کے تارے. اے چاند جلوہ گر ہے ہاشم کا چاند یہاں پر خیرات روشنی کی لے لیجیو یہاں سے. اے چاند اس زمین پر رکھیو ہمیشہ ٹھنڈک سوتے جو ہیں یہاں پر زہرا کے ہیں یہ پیارے. اے چاند تسنیم و سلسبیلو کوثر کے ہیں یہ مالک مارے گئے جو پیاسے اس نہر کے کنارے، اے چاند حر اور حبیب جیسے جاں باز اور احبا مارے گئے یہیں پر انصار شاہدی کے، مارے گئے یہیں پر بے دردیوں ستم سے، مسلم کے دونوں پیارے، زینب کے دونوں بیٹے، اے چاند پامال ہو رہی تھی قاسم کی لاش رن میں، عباس اور سرور چنتے تھے ان کے ٹکڑے، اے چاند بازو کٹے یہیں پر عباس با وفا کے، اذن وغا نہ پایا پانی بھی لا نہ پائے، اے چاند اس سرزمیں پر گزرا سرور پہ یہ بھی صدمہ، سینے پر کھائی برچھی ہم شکل مصطفیٰ نے، پانی پلانے لائے ایک مہلکا کو سرور، کیا ذبح مولا نے تیرے ستم لگا کے، گردن چھدی پہ سر کی بازو چھدا پدر کا، دونوں تڑپ تڑپ کر پیاسے جہاں سے گزرے، اے چاند اس بن میں ایک بچی بابا کو ڈھونڈتی تھی، بکھرے ہوئے پڑے تھے جب سر بری لاشیں، پھر یہ بھی تو نے دیکھا وہ غم رسیدہ بچی، سینے پسو رہی تھی بے سر پدر سے لپٹے، اے چاند بازو بندھے یہیں پر پہلے پہل حرم کے، اس سرزمین سے نکلے سجاد سر جھکائے، شہزادہ جناحی مالک ہے کربلا کا، کس کی مجال آئے جب تک نہ وہ بلائے، پہنچے ہیں کربلا میں جو لوگ سبط جعفر، اے کاش پھر مقدر ان کو یہ دن دکھائے، اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے، اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش بری کے تارے. صلوات. محمد وعلى بيت محمد صلوات.
رحم الله من قرأ الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله الذي دل على ذاته بذاته، والذي خلق المشيئة ثم خلق الأشياء بها، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين الملقب بطه والمكنى بأبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين المنتخبين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم: إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لا تبرد أبدا. صدق رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. صلوات بر محمد وآل محمد. Respected elders, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We thank Allah that He blessed us with one more chance to enter and witness the month of Muharram, which is of course a month of the purification of our souls and an opportunity to get closer to the Imam of our time and to Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. Inshallah, in the coming 10 nights, we will be addressing in English as well as Urdu language for the English Majalis, the topic that we are going to cover in these coming nights is going to be Wilayat of Ahlul Bayt and Tawassul. From tomorrow, inshallah, we will start discussing this topic in detail. For tonight, we would like to discuss few issues about Azadari, as it is quite important, because our youths, when they go outside, when they go to the schools and colleges or the universities, they sometimes face friends who have questions regarding what we do in the month of Muharram or regarding our beliefs. It is therefore of utmost importance that we tell our children, that we tell our youth from Mimbar about our beliefs, and especially the reason why we do Azadari and how can we prove this act from the Quran and the Sunnah. The very first question that comes to mind is, what is Azadari? Aza itself means to mourn for someone or to have grief in your heart. Terminologically, when we say Aza, it means the grief that you have in your heart for the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, especially Imam Hussein, his family and his holy companions, because of the oppression that they faced in the land of Karbala. There is no need to dive deep into the definition of Azadari. So this is Azadari. We remember the oppression done to the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, specifically Imam Hussein and his family and his holy companions in the land of Karbala, and we commemorate the martyrdom. The second question that we would like to address here is, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The second question is then, why do we do Azadari? Of course, this is Azadari, and Azadari is that we weep and cry on the due to the oppression done to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his family members and his holy companions. But the reason why we do Azadari is this, that first of all, it is in the human nature that if someone has done any favor to you, you always try your best to reciprocate in the best of manners. If anyone on this earth has done any favor to you, you at least say thanks to them. Or you try your best to do whatever you can so that you pay them back. Whatever is in your power, if you have money to help someone who has done any favor to you, if you have money, you would like to give him money. If you have some other things, you would like to give them those things. If you have some services, whatever you have, you always want to reciprocate, to give them back, even if it's a small thank you. This is in human nature. If you go from west to east, if you go from south to north, you will not find a single person who denies this fact, that if someone does a favor to you, you always want, and it is within the natural disposition of every human being, that we always want to thank them or to reciprocate them. If this truth has been established, then we must ponder upon this fact that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, along with his family members and his holy companions in the land of Karbala, gave away his life. He chose martyrdom over the life of this world, not for himself, but for the religion of Prophet Muhammad, for the religion of Allah that was brought by Prophet Muhammad, so that it remains alive till the day of Qiyamah. Why do we say so? Because if you go and read the history, you will find out that at the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the tyrant ruler of the time, who used to call himself the Khalifa of Rasulullah, the Yazid, the Mal'un, the cursed one, he used to sit on the mimbar of Rasulullah and would call himself the Khalifa of Rasulullah. That means you are representing the Rasulullah. And then he used to do acts that were totally prohibited in Islam. What in his heart was, what his evil intentions were, that he wanted to destroy Islam totally, so that people after him wouldn't know anything about Islam, except that there was a man known as Muhammad who brought this religion known as Islam, and there might have been few books existing about Islam in today's world, and there would have been no one practicing the teachings of Prophet in the real sense. Because we know from history what he used to do. He used to drink wine. Islam prohibited drinking of wine. In the Quran prohibited it. He used to marry his own mothers. He used to marry his own women from his own family, which are prohibited in Islam, like your own mother, your aunt from the maternal and the paternal side. He used to carry out all these things. He used to play with monkey. He used to play with animals, sitting on the mimbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Recite a salawat on Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can someone bring for me a bottle of water? One more salawat in a louder voice. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So therefore, when Imam Hussain alayhi salam realized this, that the tyrant ruler of the time, who is calling himself the representative of Rasulullah, the Khalifa to Rasulullah, he stood against him. One question still remains here. If Yazid was a tyrant ruler and he was not the true representative of Rasulullah, were people before him the true representative of Rasulullah? And if not, why our Imams did not rise before Imam Hussain alayhi salam? This is a valid question that may come to anyone's mind. And before I answer this question, I would like to let all the Azadar and the Mu'mineen know, and anyone who is listening to me online know that, thank you very much. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That throughout these 10 nights and throughout the year from this mimbar, it is our responsibility to let people know about the reality. I'm saying this within two brackets, and I will come back to the question that I raised. But within the two brackets, I would like to add this thing, that it is anyone who is coming to the mimbar of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam has the responsibility to let the people know the reality, even if it is very bitter. Even if it is very bitter. What the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have commanded us is to speak the truth and to expose their enemies, but of course to stay away from abusing them or using bad words for them. And this is of course not the shan, not the status of someone who loves Imam Ali alayhi salam and his holy infallible imams from his progeny, that we say something which is considered as an abusive word. Of course, no one does that. We all know that. It is only a blame that has been put on us Shia, that we abuse, for example, the companions or other people. We never abuse anyone. We only narrate the historical facts. We only put forward the analysis that our scholars have put forward, that even Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam have narrated through their companions, so that the world knows the reality, and so that once they know the reality, that who was on the haqq, who was just and who was unjust, after knowing this, they will be able to come to the straight path for which they pray 10 times every day. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. If everyone is asking Allah to guide them towards the straight path, then they must strive to know what the straight path is, what the reality is. And they must then adhere to this path. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So then our question was, why is it so that Imam Hussain alayhi salam stood against Yazid And then if people before Yazid who were calling themselves the representative of Prophet, the Khalifatul Rasul, why didn't Imam Ali alayhi salam, or for example Imam Hassan alayhi salam, stood against those people? Because of course we know, when we say that Imam Ali alayhi salam was the Khalifa bila fasl, he was the true representative of Prophet after him, and no one except Imam Ali had the right to come and sit on the member of Rasulullah, then of course it is proven that we do not believe in the validity of their caliphate. It is not something new to us. We do not believe in the validity of their caliphate. But at that time, they were not so exposed as Yazid, so that the Imam would have stood against them. At that time, at least they were trying to portray themselves as Muslims and trying to abide by the Quran and the Sunnah. But at the time of Yazid, he started doing things that were totally prohibited in Islam. Of course, we have other answers too, that the Imam of their time, for example, Imam Ali alayhi salam, he had this prophecy from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, that if you get enough companions, O Ali, stand against these oppressors. If not, then you will have to be patient. You will have to do sabr. And this is what Imam Ali alayhi salam did. A mountain of patience that he bore. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood against the tyrant of his time, Yazid, because he was openly criticizing Islam. He was openly saying that there was no revelation that came to Bani Hashim, and they only did this politics to gain the government, to gain the hukumat. They only did these things. When he was openly saying these many things, and he was adamant on destroying the teachings of Rasulullah and the teaching of Quran, Imam Hussein alayhi salam stood against him. When Imam Hussein stood against Yazid, it was as if he stood against the evil. And had Imam Hussein not stood against the evil of his time, we would not have this Islam today that we have. And therefore, the point that we discussed in the very beginning is, anyone who does any favor to us, it is in the human being's natural disposition. It is in the human being's fitrah to pay them back, at least with a thank or with whatever we have. When we are always willing to thank someone who does favor to us, why should we not thank someone and commemorate and weep and cry over his martyrdom and over the oppression that he faced, who saved the entire humanity from disbelief, who saved the entire humanity from being misguided, and who saved the entire message of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum wa ashurna. The second reason why we do azadari is because we would like to propagate the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. What is that message? You must have heard it hundreds of times, that Imam Hussein, while he was leaving Medina, he said this famous statement. He said a long statement, and a part of it was, إِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. I am only leaving Medina and going to stand against the oppressor of my time, so that I make amendments in the ummah of my Prophet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Therefore, we come and commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and we remember the oppressions done to him and cry and lament. And we try our best to propagate the message of Imam Hussein through this mimbar, that you have to always stand against the oppressor of your time, and you have to always be with the oppressed ones. And this is something that we are seeing throughout the world. Go to any place in this world where Muslims or even people are being oppressed, it is us Shia who are standing against the oppressors, and we are with the oppressed ones. If you go to Yemen, if you go to Lebanon, if you go to Bahrain, if you go to Pakistan or any place, you will find that the most number of people who are helping the oppressed ones are we Shia, because we have learned this lesson from the Ahlul Bayt and especially Imam Hussein alayhi salam, that you have to always stand against the oppressors and be with the oppressed ones. And this is the message that we get from Imam Hussein. So anyone who has still not been practicing this message in his life, learn and take this lesson from this Farshi Aza, that if you are a true Husseini, you should always stand against the oppressors of your time. Do not be afraid to speak against the evil. Do not be afraid to speak against the falsehood. Always be with the truthful ones, be with the truth, and always stand against the falsehood. No matter if you have to even give your life for this. But even if you lose your life in this dunya, in the akhirah, you will be successful. Ya Ali, anta wa shi'atuka humul faizun. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, "Oh Ali, you and your Shia are those who are successful, not only in this dunya but in the hereafter as well." So if you want to become a Shia of Ali and Shia of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you have to treat the same path that they treated, and that is always stand against the oppressors of your time and be with the oppressed ones. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Muhammad wa ajil faraj. Now another. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj. Another question that comes to our mind and that we would like to cover here in the next 5 to 10 minutes is, if azadari is so important, do we have its proof from the Quran and the Sunnah? Of course, if you go and read history, and because of the tabarruk of this Farshi Azza, because of the benefit of this Farshi Azza, we all know a lot of things about the azadari. And we also know that even before the event of Karbala, even Allah himself was the first one to address a majlis regarding Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his masayib. And we have narrations about the lives of different prophets that they would receive the names of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam from Allah. And when they would recite these names, they would feel really happy. For example, we have the incident of Janab Zakaria alayhi salam, ala nabiyyina wa ala alihi wa alayhi salam, that he received the names of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam from Allah. He said Muhammad, he said Ali, he said Hassan, he said Fatima, and then he said Hussein. Janab Zakaria alayhi salam says to Allah, "Oh Allah, when I took the first 4 names, Muhammad, Ali, Fatima, Hassan alayhimus salam, I felt relieved. I felt as if all my problems have been solved. All the fear that I had in my heart has gone. But when I am taking the name of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, I do not know why I feel like crying and crying and crying." So then Allah reveals to Janab Zakaria alayhi salam the event of Karbala, which had not happened then. But Allah tells him from ghaib that there is going to be in the land of Karbala the grandson of my last prophet who is going to be slain in the land of Karbala. And then Janab Zakaria alayhi salam cries a lot. And this happens with a lot of prophets. And then we have the famous narration where Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad, himself tells people who were present there when Imam Hussein alayhi salam came to this world, everyone was happy because a son has come to the family. But people saw that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam was crying. He was crying very much, so people asked him, and even Janab Fatima salamullahi alayha asked Rasulullah, "Baba, why are you crying?" And Rasulullah told Janab Fatima and the people present there from Ahlul Bayt that few seconds ago Jibreel came to me and he gave me the news that this grandson of yours will be slain by your own ummah in the land of Karbala. And that's why I am crying. So we have these news in the narrations from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, even from Allah before the event of Karbala. Now, I would like to recite in front of you few narrations from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam about the importance of Azadari, the reward that Allah gives to people who cry and lament over Imam Hussein, his holy family, and his holy companions. If you could recite a loud salawat on Muhammad wa ali. This is a narration from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam. It has come in the Amali of Shaykh Mufid. He says, he whose eyes shed tears for our blood which has been shed, for our rights which have been usurped, or for the humiliation that has been inflicted upon us or to one of our Shiites, Allah shall accommodate him in paradise for a long time. We have to understand the importance of these tears that scrolls down our cheeks. These are not common tears. These are not similar to the tears that come out of our eyes when we are in problem. I have heard from my elders, I do not have any proof or any link for you to prove it, but I have heard from my elders that chemical test was done on the tears that come out of our eyes when we cry over Imam Hussein, and its composition was found different from those tears that come out of our eyes when we cry over our own issues or when we lose someone among us. This may be a reality, and I believe this must be a reality, because Imam Hussein alayhi salam is totally the oppression that was done unto him and the patience that he went through and the lamentation that we do for him is totally different from any lamentation or crying that we do for anyone else in this whole world. Another narration that we have from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. And this is from the book of Kamil Ziyarat. For those unable to go for the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, for us and for anyone who is not in Iraq, on the day of Ashura, he should mourn over Imam Hussein alayhi salam, weep for him, and instruct the members of the house to weep for him. He should establish the mourning ceremony in the house by exhibiting lamentations and grief over him. The people should meet one another in their homes, and after condolences on consolations to each other over the calamities which befell him. Inshallah, on the day of Ashura and throughout these nights, we should try our best that we are never smiling. I say this first for myself and then for any one of you, all of you. We should try our best not to smile throughout these nights, because these are the days when Fatima lost her son, when Fatima lost her entire family on the land of Karbala. One more narration from Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam regarding those people who recite poetry, like you listen to the salam on the marhum Sitta Jafar, may Allah elevate his rank in Jannah, and for all the poets who write poetries about Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam says, there is none who recites poetry about Hussein and weeps and makes others weep by means of it, except that Allah makes paradise incumbent upon him and forgives his sins. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. There is no one who recites a poetry about Imam Hussein alayhi salam so that people cry over it and lament over it, except that Allah will make paradise incumbent upon him. Dear Azadar and the dear believers, these are the 10 nights where we have to keep reminding ourselves that these 10 nights are the nights, and then this 2 month and 8 days, these are the days, especially these 10 nights. These are the 10 nights where we should vow to revolutionize ourselves from within. Let me say this to you, that when we cry over Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when we grieve over the sufferings that he had to go through, the oppressions that he had to face, when we cry over him, crying over Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not the real goal. Listen to this properly. Crying over Imam Hussein alayhi salam is not the real goal. The real goal lies inside this crying that we have over Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Like we say in the Urdu language, it will be delivered better in a better manner if I say this in Urdu language. Rona maqsad hai ya rone mein maqsad hai. It is not the end goal to cry over Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because anyone, we have so many stories that people who did not know anything about Imam Hussein, and they were not even Muslims when they came to know about the event of Karbala, and even today when they come to know about the event of Karbala, they cry over Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So that is not the end goal. The end goal is to cry over Imam Hussein and to realize the importance of these tears that we shed over him, and to cleanse our souls and hearts with the help of these tears, so that we get closer and closer to the Imam of our time. That is the real goal that we have to achieve throughout these 10 nights, so that if we were at stage on the Chaand Raat, on the night of moon sighting, if we were at particular stage on the 10th of Muharram, we must find ourselves a little bit closer to Imam Hussein and Imam of our time with respect to the stage that we were on the night of moon sighting. If you could recite the salawat on Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight, we remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam and his family leaving their homeland, leaving Medina. This is, of course, a very big tragedy for Imam Hussein. Even if you take the example of anyone, if you can switch off the lights, please, we will continue with the Masayib. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. On this night, we remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam leaving Medina, the Medina of his grandfather Mustafa, Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. It is, of course, really painful for any one of you. People living here can realize this in a better manner, that if you are from India or Pakistan or from any other country, it must have been so painful for you to leave your country, to leave a place where you spent your childhood, to leave a house where you have your parents and siblings, because you have some issues. For example, you have to come for a job, or you have some other business issues. You have to leave your hometown. But if you just honestly think about this, whenever you even see a picture of your house back there in India or Pakistan, you feel the pain. You feel the pain of leaving your house, and you had to come here to this land or to some other land. No one ever likes to leave his homeland. And what can be worse than this, that Imam Hussein alayhi salam had to leave his homeland, had to leave the Medina of his grandfather because of the oppression that was done unto him. We have in narrations that Imam Hussein alayhi salam, when he was deciding to leave Medina, when he was preparing to leave Medina, we have in narrations that Janab Salama, the wife of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he comes to Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and he says, "Oh Hussein, please do not leave Medina because it saddens me." Janab Salama says to Imam Hussein, "It really saddens me that you are leaving Medina and going to Iraq, because I know my husband Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told me that if Hussein goes to Iraq, he will be killed there on the plains of Karbala." So Salama is really grieved that Imam Hussein alayhi salam is leaving for Iraq. But Imam Hussein alayhi salam says to Janab Salama, "Oh my mom, I know very well that I have to leave the land of my grandfather, and I will have to go to the land of Iraq. I know very well that not only me, but the family of mine and my holy companions will be slain in the land of Karbala." Imam Hussein tells Salma that I know very well that I will have to leave this land and I will be slain on the land of Karbala. But it is in the will of Allah that I must leave Medina and I must go to Iraq. People of this ummah will not leave me alive until I give my bay'ah to them. But anyone like me will never give his allegiance and bay'ah to anyone who is like Yazid. We have in narrations that Imam Hussein starts preparing for Medina. He asks his companions to bring horses and camels, and the goods were being loaded upon the camels. And then a person says, we have a narration from a person who says, I wanted to go and see how Imam Hussein alayhi salam was leaving Medina. So he goes and he sees that everyone is getting over the camels and the horses. And then someone said in a loud voice, people, please do not raise your eyes. Please do not look over here because Zainab is going to come outside and mount the camel. We have this in narration that Janab Zainab salamullah alayha, when she came to get over the camel, Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam came forward. He took hold of Janab Zainab alayhi salam and made her sit on the back of the camel. And this caravan started leaving Medina. And we have in narrations that Imam Hussein, before leaving the Medina, he went to the cemetery. Because Imam Hussein knows that while he is leaving Medina, now he will not be coming back to Medina. He will be slain in the land of Karbala. Now Imam Hussein finally comes to say final goodbye to Prophet Muhammad. He goes to the grave of Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, people of your ummah have made me helpless, that I leave my homeland and I go away from you. Peace be upon you, O Prophet. And Prophet's voice come from the grave. O Hussein, I see you bathing in your blood in the land of Karbala. I see the enemy sitting on your chest and slaying you and cutting your head and putting it away from your body. Imam Hussein alayhi salam then goes to the grave of his brother Imam Hassan alayhi salam and says goodbye to him, bids goodbye to him. But we have in narrations that when Imam Hussein alayhi salam went to the grave of Prophet Muhammad, he was walking on his feet. When he goes to the grave of Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he was walking on his feet. Now finally Hussein goes to the grave of Fatima, his mother. We have in narrations that Hussein did not have the strength to walk on his feet. Hussein was crawling on the ground when he went to the grave of Fatima. Oh mother, your Hussein has come to bid farewell to you, to say goodbye to you, because this is the last time I am visiting your grave. Oh my God, Imam Hussein is leaving Medina. But we know very well that even if Imam Hussein bid farewell to his mother, Fatima never left Hussein alone. On the plains of Karbala, when enemies were killing Imam Hussein, Fatima was there lamenting over the murder of his son, Imam Hussein alayhi salam. اللهم لعن قاتل الحسين عليه السلام. اللهم لعن عن القوم الظالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Oh Allah, we ask you to accept this act of ours and this majlis of ours. Oh Allah, we ask you in the name of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam that we get closer to them in these 10 nights. Oh Allah, we ask you to hasten the reappearance of Imam Zamana of our time and to declare us among his a'wan and ansar and his helpers. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil faraj.
Salawat bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Inshallah, we'll have a brief salam and marsiya, and then we'll start the Urdu Majlis. Inshallah, for the next 10 nights, this will be the format. We'll try to start sharp at 7 o'clock with the English Majlis, and then sharp at 8 for the Urdu Majlis, inshallah.